meeting minutes for September the 14th, special council meeting. Moved by Councillor Vokes, supported by Councillor Snively. All in favor? That's carried. And that brings us to public presentations. And our first presentation is Merrill Baker, Chairman of the Harrow Health Center, a family health team, along with Margot Riley. She's the Executive Director. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here, first of all, to thank the town of Essex and council for the incredible support and partnership that has occurred to date with respect to the McGregor Clinic that opened many months ago now. It's a thriving success, you'll be pleased to know. We've serviced well in excess of 1,400 patients as of the end of July. As you recall, historically, this has been something that has been sought for McGregor Center for quite some time. The Harrow Health Center recognized long ago that it was an underserviced area, and we've been aggressively lobbying the Ministry of Health for funding to open a clinic in that area. We were fortunate enough to have the ministry finally agree to a pilot project, a trial period for 1 year. That's going to conclude at the end of March of 2016. To date, the Harrow Health Center has invested considerable finances to try to make this a success, and we again recognize the contribution of the town with respect to the site and the other help that's been forthcoming. It's been tens of thousands of dollars that have come from the Harrow Health Center. The ministry, when they approved the pilot project, in their infinite wisdom, decided that they would only fund a nurse practitioner. And we're grateful for that, but we had sought to have funding for a physician, and we had sought to have funding for the operational costs, which would also include having some administrative staff there to deal with patients as they arrived. The ministry wasn't in a position to do so. We've gone back to the ministry and asked for further funding for those items, and the ministry has point blank indicated to us that no more funding would be forthcoming. Because this is a pilot project, we're going to be compelled to put a case to the ministry fairly soon, and we have to do our best to make it a compelling case to make this a permanent project. Unfortunately, the Harrow Health Center has been experiencing some unanticipated adverse financial consequences, and it puts us in a position that we're partly a victim of the success of this McGregor Clinic. Because of the volume that's being serviced there, it is necessary to have somebody there other than just their nurse practitioner on a full-time basis. The ministry has not been funding for the outfitting of this place, the equipping of it, or any staffing other than the nurse practitioner herself. We now need to find some method of trying to fund for the administrative help we need there, as well as the ongoing operational costs. And we're not blind to the fact that council as a whole and the town is obviously receiving requests for help or funding and from many different medical offices or physicians. We're also not blind to the fact that healthcare is properly a provincial responsibility. But in this unique scenario, McGregor the McGregor Clinic's there, and it's doing well. And if we're going to make a compelling case to the ministry to give us permanent funding for operational costs, as well as the other staffing, we're going to need help from the town. We're going to need help to carry on the pilot project to the end of March, and we're going to need help lobbying the ministry to ensure that McGregor gets serviced in the manner it deserves. So with your support, hopefully we can find a creative solution, something that will help all of us make sure McGregor gets the health care it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to either Merrill or Margot? Councillor Vokes.
Thank you. In your presentation, I'm trying to, why you would, what are we looking at to carry us through to the end of March in terms of dollars and cents? That would be, I guess, would be, your impression would be a consideration from the town of Essex to carry. I don't want to, I really, no disrespect, but I don't want to hear about all the other initiatives that, what you, there's got to be a number you're looking for from us, right to the point. What's that number?
Thank you for your question, Councillor. The answer to that would be approximately $50,000 would get us through to the end of March, March 31st, 2016, at which point we're all hopeful that the ministry will step up.
So you say the intent, the assumption is that in March sometime the ministry would come forward. I guess what is it that stalls them at this point from not coming forward in their political interests?
Sorry about that, Councillor. This is a pilot project, and we have no assurances whatsoever from the ministry that will be made permanent. We were given the trial period to conclude as of March 31st, 2016, and we were to go to the ministry with a compelling case, as they phrased it, that this should be made a permanent facility. We've been gathering data as far as patient visits to try to make that compelling case, but there's no doubt, given the provincial budgetary constraints, there's no doubt, given the restraints within the Ministry of Health itself, that we're going to need support, lobbying, to make this permanent, and we'd hope the town would be able to help us in that regard as well. But I can't say to you that if you fund this to the end of March, that for sure it will become a permanent facility. I can't make that assurance.
So if I could, I did hear you say they come into some unannounced financial hardship that I assume wasn't in your budget consideration. If the town of Essex was to come forward and assist, when did you need the check? Yesterday?
As always, there's a sense of urgency to these matters. The board of the Harrell Health Center is to again meet next Monday. At the last meeting, which was 1 month ago, this was a hot topic. We decided at that point we'd keep the status quo. We didn't want to leave McGregor in any kind of lurch. But at the same token, I suspect there'll be pressures from the board members on Monday to make some kind of decision.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kexar.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So, I guess I got a couple of questions. One is with regards to the financial stuff that you provided for us. The one item that I'm a little confused on, it seems excessively high, $734.50 a month for phone and internet.
We too are not particularly pleased with the amount of that line item, but it is the actual amount of the contract we've had to sign with Cogeco for the internet and the phone lines. So it's a combination. Now, there was not a supply of, there was not the wiring or the cabling or anything else to the clinic in the McGregor site, so we had to absorb those costs and have it installed. And the Harrell Health Center stepped up to do that. This is the monthly amount that we're being charged under the contract.
Okay, so further to that, do you have the amount that the actual monthly bill is? Obviously, in that $734 is installation costs, from what I'm hearing. So what is the amount that you're paying for internet and phone monthly?
We don't have that available this evening, but I'd be happy to have it emailed to Town Council tomorrow.
Just curious, because it is a large amount, and I mean even if there's installation in there, just seems high. So I guess my question is, in March, if you don't have a definitive answer at that point, or if there hasn't been an uptake, what next?
And that gets to the urgency of putting our case forward to the ministry now and not waiting to closer to the conclusion of the trial period. We want to get to a case before them here in the next month or so, and then push the ministry for an early answer as to whether or not this will become a permanent facility. Depending on how the ministry answers, obviously in collaboration with the town, some decisions would have to be made.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the last couple weeks, or even 4 or 5 days, I've been watching the paper for healthcare-related articles, and it's really a shame what's happening in our province to our healthcare due to the budgetary pressures. But I want to support you. I will support you. I do have a couple questions, though. If you read about healthcare and dollars going to doctors, the province has cut 3.15% to doctor services. So, and we need it more than ever. So, to me, we need to lobby. Absolutely, we need to get this funding formula changed. I'm worried about Essex County not having enough. I'm worried about Ontario not having enough doctors in the future. A few questions I have are: out of the 1,411 visits, how many of those visits are Essex residents? I'm sure that's probably hard for you to know, but in terms of asking for help, the town of Essex, I'm sure, will support you in some capacity. But I'm wondering if, you should go to the town of Amherstburg, if you should go to Kingsville, if you should go to perhaps County Council. Like, I don't mind covering our share, but I think that this McGregor seems to serve a region, not just the town of Essex residents. So that's my first question there.
There's no doubt, given the location of the clinic, geographically, it straddles the line between the town of Essex and the town of Amherstburg. We've been able to track, and we provided to you with respect to the postal code, but the postal code does overlap both municipalities, no doubt. But in addition to that postal code, which I'll call the McGregor Center postal code, there are a number of patients that are being serviced from, I guess, Essex Town Center, as well as other geographic locations within the greater town of Essex.
Thank you. So I guess my question would be for council, what level of support do we want to give? And we all know that preventative visits like this stop emergency room visits. They really do. It is really preventative health that we're offering at the McGregor Community Center. It's something that I believe we should support. But at the same time, it's a provincial initiative, and it's a slippery slope. I don't want to start taking it on, right? Like, I agree that you need to fulfill your obligation to this trial, but I also believe this federal election is important to what's going to happen with the provincial results in terms of budgetary dollars for healthcare. We need to make sure that the upper levels of government are giving the province enough dollars for healthcare, which right now, with our current government, is not. So I'm up to giving some level of support with the town of Essex, whether it be the whole $50,000 or whether it be 40 and we ask them to go to county. I'm just looking to have an open discussion with that.
Thank you, Councillor Snively.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Merle, hours, days open. Are you open? How many days a week is that clinic open?
Currently, we're open every Wednesday and Friday, 9 to 5. Previously, we were open 5 days a week. We had one evening until 8 o'clock, was 12 to 8, and that was a Thursday. So we were putting in 40 hours, but right now we are doing, we do have the clinic open 2 days a week.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question, because I was going to bring up the issue, if you were still open 5 days a week, if we could look at, cutting those hours a little bit to save some money. But if you're down to 2 days a week now, yeah, I can't see where the cuts are. Thank you. And I do support Sherry 100% with what she said on funding. Thank you.
Councillor Kexero.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Malash, to Donna. I know there was some money left in, I believe, the doctor recruitment fund, or where we pull from there. If we were going to support this, Obviously, there isn't $50,000 in there. Where would we get the remainder of how much ever support we gave to this?
Through you, Your Worship, in that doctor's recruitment reserve right now, we have about 13,300, which obviously isn't going to be enough to cover that. And I really do not have any other source for that funding right now, because I'm not sure where we're sitting as a municipality against our operating budget at this point.
Is that good, Councillor Kexer? Thank you. Councillor Bjorkman.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. No doubt it's an important initiative to have for McGregor. I know a number of people that have used it. We've been out for a couple of functions there and met many of the people that have been in there, so it is necessary. But I also agree with the fact that it's used by many people in our county. And if we were going to go, I'm sure the town and the council would support moving forward with it, but talking to Amherstburg as well, approaching them and working together, coordinating that way. And if there's anything we can do as far as any grant opportunities that are out there to back and help you with those, without a doubt, we would do that. So I think we are open to that suggestion, but there has to be partnership with the people that are using it.
Thank you. Councillor Vokes.
I stress the same, Merle, to be quite frank with you. In terms of when the nurse practitioner office opened, or facility opened in McGregor, the town of Essex provided and held a mortgage for $1 million. And then we provided and held another mortgage for $500,000 upon the addition. And then last year in the budget, we subsidized by $136,000. And now tonight, we're going to subsidize tentatively by another $50,000. And I have great concerns that that falls just on the doorstep of us. And I want to reflect on what Councillor Caxero or Councillor Bondi said. I forget which one talked about Amherstburg. And I think we need to have the discussions with Amherstburg before we commit too quickly to it, because they owe it to us. They owe it to you, they owe it to us. And nobody's going to convince me that the people going to McGregor, the onus should go on this municipality solely. And I got no problem representing the nurse practitioner's office from a council point of view with Amherstburg, along with you, Merle, along with your staff, to meet with them and find out what their dividends are going to be. Because tonight, when you look here, we tentatively are going to be flipping on another $3 million. We're going to lose tax revenue on moratorium on builds. And we are certainly going to be challenged moving into the 2016 budget. So I want to be careful with what we're doing with our money. I have no problem giving it to that facility once all opportunity's been exhausted. I got a big problem just handing it over without Amherstburg coming to the pump, because they owe it. And nobody's going to tell me they don't. With Walker Road being a divisional point, you're not going to tell me the residents on the other side on Amherstburg don't come over there and they just do this and we pay it all. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen until we have, that's only my view. But we got to, Merle, in administration, we got to have those discussions with Amherstburg. And I'm sure the Council of Amherstburg wouldn't object to having those discussions. Even if they come up with 20 grand, that would help us. That would significantly help us. Money doesn't come easy for us right now, nor is it going to in the future with the pains we're going to be feeling in terms of the flooding issue. I'm sure you know what's going on in our municipality. So when I look at Donna there and how she tightens up the strings for us on what we do, I want the nurse practitioner office there for the people, but I want to make sure we extinguish all financial opportunities first, and then we'll figure out a way to get you the money. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor. I'm eager to partner up with the town and town administration to do whatever's necessary as far as meetings with Amherstburg or others to ensure that collectively we do whatever's required to make sure this clinic does not close.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips?
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. This was an item that was first brought to administration's attention last week. Mr. Sweet and I attended a meeting with Merrill and Margot at the Harrow Health Center, and we came to understand of their financial situation. It was intended to bring them forward tonight as simply to receive their presentation. It would be our recommendation that their request be forwarded to Finance Committee, because it is a fiscal request if there's budget considerations to be made, not in front of, there was no recommendation to council tonight, simply to receive their report. The issues of Amherstburg are not lost on them or us. That was a discussion I had with Margot, and she provided information based on postal code best they could, but getting inside that finite number and determining which side of Walker people are coming from was a difficult task. We're trying to determine that better if they can, if there's opportunity to do that. And certainly the option of discussing with Amherstburg was something that your administration strongly recommends that we continue with that vein as well. But I would recommend a special meeting with the Finance Committee be called at the chair's request, and we can go further on that. We earlier heard that they had a board meeting coming up. That was the reason to put them on the agenda tonight. We have a busy plate of other business to deal with tonight, but we wanted to hear from them, and would suggest that that be simply forwarded or received as information tonight and moved forward through council.
Thank you. Councillor Snively.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I really don't want to have it carried on either, but I agree with Councillor Votes. That's what I wrote down here. You know, I'd like to see a meeting with Amherstburg and County Council before we make a decision on funding. But I see where you're coming from. I know you do need funding, but I want to see where we're going with County and Amherstburg first. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kexer.
Through you, Mr. Chair. My only concern is with respect to your strain financially. How much time do you have before things are going to kind of start to create a problem?
As I've earlier indicated, the sense of urgency is acute. It's causing problems at the Harrow Health Center and otherwise as far as our operations. It's the reason why it's on the agenda for a board meeting on Monday. Having said that, obviously we all understand the timing issues, we understand the collaboration that still has to happen, we understand that Finance Committee has to meet. So I'll certainly be reporting that to the board, and I expect the board will be understanding, but I can't speak for the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bjorkman. Okay. Councillor Vokes.
When's the Finance Committee meet?
At the call of the chair. So it can
Pardon?
meet at the call of the chair, so it can meet any time. If there's pressing issues, then
Well, then we
meet
should
right
do
away.
that. Like, obviously, they're strained for time and they need the money. The Finance Committee, I assume, would set something up to meet with Amherstburg, which I'd like to be there, even though I'm not a member of the Finance Committee, right?
We will make sure. We'll make sure that anybody can come.
So just as quick as we can, let's move it along. But I just don't want to flip the bill for all of it if Amherstburg's going to come. Not if Amherstburg's going to come down. I like to believe Amherstburg will come to the pump if they want to do the right things for the constituents in their municipality, recognizing it's shared. Let's not kid one another. So.
Councillor Bjorkman.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to receive the report, direct it to the Finance Committee and to administration to communicate with Amherstburg.
So motion by Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Councillor Snively. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you both for coming this evening and presenting. Yes, Councillor Bondi.
Thank you. On that issue, I would like to just put a notice of motion forward for October 5th that Council of the Town of Essex lobby and approach the provincial government to talking about the cuts to healthcare. And I would also hope that the Finance Committee earmark the 13,000 that's left in the doctor recruitment for 2015 towards the health center too. That would be my wishes if it's in there budgeted for 2015. Because I probably won't make the meeting.
Is that a motion or a notice of motion?
It's a notice of motion.
Thank you. We have a second presentation this evening by Stantec Consulting, and we'll have our gentleman from Stantec present.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. Follow up last council meeting, we presented the data analysis, presented what we have done so far since January 2015, 9 months ago. Then we also presented the cause of basement flooding and what option we have to address the flooding issue. Tonight we'll go through little bit background, highlight the town sewer system, also identify the problem. Then we will recommend the long-term and short-term solutions. Then we give the opinion of probable cost for short-term solution. Then we'll summary, summary what we have done so far. So that, first of all, that's, I will say the town of Essex sanitary sewer system will divide by two areas. One is northeast service area. That is all the sanitary sewage will go through to the northeast lagoon. Then also the second service area is southwest service area. So remember, this town of Essex is a separate sewer system. The separate sewer system means have a sanitary sewer system, also has a stormwater sewer system. So for the storm sewer, it's not like a City Windsor or City Toronto. There's a combined sewer system. That means all stormwater will get into that sanitary sewer together. So during the storm event, in that combined sewer system, the flow will be much higher. Ideally, for this town Essex sanitary sewer system, that the flow during the storm event will be not that rise because the stormwater will be go into the separate system. That's ideal conditions. So then I just want to show that this graph, this shows the flow to the Essex pollution control plan starting March this year and to July. You can see the spikes. Those spikes respond to that storm event. That one, the high spike happened in early June. That we had about 2 and 3 inch storm. So that flow at that conditions, what we have is the average flow is about 2,600 cubic meter per day. That maximum flow during that storm event is 17,000. So the peak factor, so that means that ratio between maximum to average is 6.7. That is extremely high compared to a normal separate system that would be in range of 3. So that's indicated the very high level of inflow of infiltration entering the town's sanitary sewer system. So lots of stormwater into that sewer system, sanitary sewer system. So, so the following will Clarence will go on.
The following, I'm going to discuss the recommended short-term solutions. The first one being the recommissioning of the Essex Southwest Lagoons. One of the Essex Southwest Lagoons would be, which is currently decommissioned, would be temporarily used to store excess wet weather flow. In addition to that, a drain would be constructed from the Southwest Lagoon to the pump station at the Essex Pollution Control Plant. Second item would be to do improvements to the inlet pumping station at the Essex Pollution Control Plant. It would involve installing another pump in the existing inlet pump station. It would also involve constructing a flow distribution chamber adjacent to the inlet pumping station at the Essex Pollution Control Plant. This would allow flows to be diverted during big storm events to be temporarily stored in the Southwest Lagoons, and construction of the interconnecting piping between the distribution chamber and the Southwest Lagoon. The third item is the pumping station number 3 upgrades. The pumping station number 3, which is located on Fairview, would be upgraded tremendously to approximately 220 liters per second from the existing 65. In addition to that, the pumping station currently has a force main which directs sewage to the trunk sanitary sewer along South Talbot Road at Bryan Ave West. The improvements would also involve extending that force main directly to the Essex treatment plant, and that way we wouldn't be adding flows into the already taxed sewer along South Talbot Road. And another item in this would be to install standby power in the event of a power outage at that pump station number 3. The fourth item is increased sanitary sewer size. This is, the other 3 items were at the southwest sewage area. This one is at the northeast sewage area. The sewer on Bryan Avenue East is overwhelmed with storm flows. The sanitary sewer is overwhelmed with storm flows during storm events. And we saw a benefit to increase the size of the sanitary sewer from the existing 250 millimeter diameter to 375 to provide relief from basement flooding in that area. So the recommended long-term solutions, the first one being the ongoing inflow and infiltration reduction program that has been started by the town, and it forms part of this review that we've done. The second is public awareness and education. A lot of homes have interconnections between storm and sanitary. As you can see by those high infiltration rates, it is severe in this town. So people need to disconnect these systems. It's not providing a proper relief for the system, and it's causing flooding in possibly your own basement along with your neighbors. The other item here is stormwater management. This would be both in existing and proposed developments. Now, what's it going to cost? The recommissioning of the Essex Southwest Lagoons, we've estimated that at approximately $125,000. The inlet pumping station upgrades at the Essex Pollution Control Plant, we've estimated that at approximately $350,000. The pumping station number 3 upgrades and force main to the Essex plant we estimate at approximately $2 million. The increased sanitary size on Bryan Avenue, that's at the northeast area, that's approximately $850,000. So a subtotal of $3.325 million. And since there are a lot of unknowns at this early stage of the review, we've added a contingency allowance of 15%. So and once you add in engineering costs, the total capital costs are about $4.4 million. So in summary, the high priority items that we would recommend implementing to address the basement flooding is the recommissioning of the Southwest Lagoon, the upgrades to the pumping station at the Essex Pollution Control Plant, the upgrades to the pumping station number 3 and extension of the sanitary force main, and the increase in size of the sanitary sewer along Bryan Avenue East at the north end. Permits and approvals. This was brought up in the last, how long are things going to take? Well, the permits that are required for the sewer and force main are Schedule A, which are very less onerous. The Schedule B activities in the Environmental Assessment Act would include the pumping station upgrades and the recommissioning of the existing sewage Southwest Lagoon. In addition to this, Minister of Environment and Climate Change approval is also required, and at present time, we're seeing a 8 to 10 month wait period for that. But as I mentioned, if there's a push to get it done, it will get done. So, construction schedule. We realize that this is very urgent, and as a result, we put together an aggressive schedule. The completion of the EA would be from October to January 2016. So we'd have our mandatory commencement in October, prepare the schedule during October and November, and then a second mandatory meeting in December. At the end of 30 days, if there's no appeals, it would be finalized in January of 2016. In addition to that, in 2016, we would prepare a design brief and initial drawings to be submitted to MOE, and then we would commence and carry out detailed design, preparation of specifications, starting back in November in anticipation that we get approval for the EA. And we anticipate that the drawings and specifications would be completed in March of 2016, public tender in March of 2016, and commence construction in May of 2016, provided that MOE approval is received by that point. So from right here, I'll leave it to the floor for any questions.
Thank you. I'm going to start off with Mr. Phillips here. He has a comment and a couple of questions, and then we'll open up to the rest of council.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. Wanted to follow up on the presentation by Stantec to apprise council also of more recent discussions. We've had recent discussions, as the consultants have indicated, both with our local MPP and with the ministry office, and in fact we just had confirmation of a senior contact with the ministry's office that with the intent of getting the EA application, the environmental assessment application, effectively to the top of the pile. And we're working with the ministry office. Once we had the consultants design and costs, which we now have, thank you for that, that just came in today, finalized. The next steps to that, Chris will address in terms of what the work has been done in terms of the subsidy program. But also wanted to apprise council and the gallery that senior staff have begun, also commenced an application under the Small Communities Fund to fund these works, to put forward under council's direction at our last meeting, was to begin that application process. Now that we have firm numbers, we'll be moving that forward. Ms. Hunter and Ms. Brett are both working on that particular application. I do want to come back and talk a little later in terms of the interim control bylaw that council had spoken to, but I did want to have the opportunity to have council ask any questions of the consultants while they're here. There is something, though, before we adopt anything, I do want to come back and speak again to the interim control bylaw, because there's some specific aspects under the Planning Act that we must follow, so I need to apprise council of that a little later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Councillor Vokes?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I certainly do want to, for those of you who are here tonight on, help me out, Russ, what day was it? We met, on Friday. Myself and administration, along with Councillor Bjorkman, had the opportunity to meet with Therese Natashak, and it's imperative that everybody in this room know that Therese was there at our request immediately, and I think he's going to be not getting political, not taking any party side, none of that. It's just that the bottom line is Therese is going to be an asset to us through this whole process. So we know what the design cost looks like. I hear Russ saying we've made intentions for grants. We've heard, obviously, an excellent presentation from Stan Tech last council meeting and then again this evening. And when I look at Chris Nepsey, Chris can't do any more work. I'm sure he separated himself from his wife and his family over the last couple weeks. And if this council owes anything to anybody outside of Stan Tech, it's certainly Mr. Nepsey by all means. And I don't want that to go not unnoticed. So with all that being said, is financially, where do we go? Like, that's the question, right? We know what we got to do. We've had the discussions. Now the question is how do we stimulate the funding to do it? And I see Donna turn her button on, because that's definitely the lady I'm going to turn to guide us along through this, because I believe that the MOE report, I'm remaining optimistic, will fall on our laps in a very short time period as a result of that being pushed. So I want to be financially ready, even though we're making applications for grant. So I was just wondering, Donna, if you could give us just a guideline, a tentative time frame, or based on your views, how we could sustain this project, please.
Through you, Your Worship, or Deputy Mayor Malash. Basically speaking, right now, our reserve for Ward 1 sanitary has sufficient general reserve funds in place that we could start the project. We would, of course, put through our wastewater study that we're presently doing as well, these costs, because we can accommodate them two ways. We can try to get some of them or all of them through rates, or we can do it through a combination of rates and long-term financing. The SCF fund is one-third funding, and based on the estimate that Stantec has presented, our portion of that with non-refundable HST would be about 1.5 million, keeping in mind that any works that we do before that application is submitted and approved would not be funded, and I don't know what that portion would be at this point, but those works that we start now without approval would obviously not be funded by that fund. So that's basically where I see this going.
So, if I heard you right, based on the money we have in reserve, Ward 1, we could move, we could start, right? Well, that's certainly good news. I'm glad to hear that. So, in terms of rate distribution as to long-term recovery, could that can be shared? Like, could we put a portion of that onto rate recovery, and like we could separate that? Could we, Donna?
We could separate, it would still be Ward 1 customers, but we could separate and try and recover some of it through our rates, because it's not going to be an instant project. And then part of that could also go for long-term financing.
So the financial burden, I won't call it burden, the financial concern would be on that of the Ward 1 residents to recover, like we did with our aquatic pool? Something similar to that?
It would be similar to when we built the pollution control plant. We basically, our Ward 1 residents are paying a portion of that cost through the long-term financing of that project.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Oakes. So I do need a motion to receive the report from Stantec. Councillor Caxero and Councillor Oakes, all in favor? Thank you. It's carried. Now, further on the agenda, you'll see that there's some resolutions that are being suggested as far as what we may want to do. Not sure if there's someone who wants to take that on. Councillor Vokes.
Are you talking in terms of moratorium?
No, this is the approving the submission of expression of interest under the SCF. Our administration needs approval from council to switch.
Forward.
Okay.
Yep.
And then certify that the information contained in the expression of interest is factually accurate, and that council commits to meet the additional funding requirements as may be required beyond any grant that the municipality may attract.
You looking for a motion to?
I am, please.
I'll make a motion in support of then.
Okay. Moved moved by Councillor Vokes and supported by Councillor Caxero. Any questions on this? Councillor Vokes.
Through your chair, could you please explain to everybody that process we just went through and what it means to them, or somebody through administration, if they could do that? Because I'm sure there's people out there going, what did they just do?
Mr. Phillips will try and do that for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. Effectively, what the resolution reads is that council, for the purposes of submitting the EOI, or the expression of interest, under the Small Communities Fund, the project will be that which the consultants have described tonight, being the $4.4 million project. That's what our staff will put forward an application that is designed to meet that criteria. It'll be under the wastewater category. And as the treasurer, as Donna has spoken to, it can be funded in the fashion going forward. So with council's approval on this tonight, it empowers administration to move forward, submit the application before the deadline of September 30th, which we do not meet again until October 5th, I think. So we need to have your authorization tonight, and that you're committing also to meet the additional funding requirement, because, as what Donna said, our 1/3 would be about...
Through your worship, 1.5 million.
Yeah. You're putting that application forward. That's not to say that you're not going to go forward more quickly or less quickly. It simply says that you're making an application through the Small Communities Fund. We'll lobby hard and we'll talk hard on it, but there's no guarantee. So it'll have to be a further decision of council as to how you want to fund it in the interim. The danger is that we can't start any works other than perhaps to study, and other than perhaps the EA part of it, that we could go forward with the environmental assessment without, there's not a lot of costs. Mr. Nepsey has something to add?
Through your worship. Yeah, moving forward right now, as far as the risk of moving forward, the large amount of the costs that are coming are construction costs, right? It's the upgrades themselves. As far as getting going right away, the cost for that EA process and for those design moving forward, in terms of the overall scope, are minimal and can be covered through the existing reserves that we have right now. So I think we need some clarification on, as far as moving forward with, from council anyways, to move forward with the consultant in that aspect as well. So not you know, the grant is one thing, but then, you know, basically giving them permission to go from tonight. So.
Mr. Phillips.
Yeah, further to that, the agenda as you have it in front of you, without moving too far forward, you would wanted to advance 7E and 7F forward. And I think it's important that you've got a motion moving forward right now on the application portion, but it's important that we tie together, I think, 7E, which is for the purposes of those that don't have an agenda in front of them, that is the backwater valve sump pump installation subsidy program, which the Flood Task Force has recommended and is in front of council tonight for their consideration. And then the next item would be, as Chris has just indicated, to continue to retain the services of Stantec to move forward to review both the development policies and the issues on the sanitary sewer as they've described tonight. So to continue the work with them, we need to move forward to continue to retain their services. So there's more to be discussed on 7F, but I think it's appropriate that we would deal with the first resolution, get that approval, and then Chris can identify the subsidy program.
So, Councillor Vokes.
Thank you. So in terms of the 4.4 million, we have that there.
Through your worship, no, we don't have the 4.4 million, but we have enough to get started with the EA, the engineering, and if the grant was not approved, we'd have to look at other alternatives such as long-term borrowing, but we have enough to get started at this point in reserve, and to do, like Chris had indicated, do all the engineering and do the EA work that's required.
So then We need a motion, obviously, to start the process. And if that's what we need to do it, I will make that a motion that we pull the money out of the reserve to start the process.
Okay, so we'll vote on this. Right now, you have a motion on the floor with those three items that you had passed already. So we'll vote on that right now, if there's no other further questions on those. All in favor? That's carried. Now, if you want to make another motion in regard to, or do we? So, once we get into 7E and 7F, we'll look to you to make that motion.
But if I could,
Yes.
to our Chief Administrative Officer, by approving and moving forward, that's not going to change the outcome of the next two issues. You agree?
Mr. Knapsey?
Through your worship, what we've got several issues. We have the grant issue that you just voted on, to clarify. We've got the engineering for the capital works that Stantec just presented. That's a separate issue. We have the subsidy program, 3, as far as funding and acceptance of that. And then in addition, the next item ties into the interim control bylaw and the report that Jeff Watson presented. In that as well is we're looking at recommendations to acquire Stantec as well, to look at policies and documentation with respect to our development guidelines moving forward, along with our stormwater system. So there's the 4 issues. So we can right now approve Stantec to go ahead with the sanitary capital upgrades that they had presented here, and then we can deal with Stantec again when it comes forward in the planning report. So if you want to make that clean break, then you can deal with them right now that way.
Okay, so Councillor Vokes?
Yeah, my preference would be to solidify that we're moving forward with that and then go to each separate issue.
Okay, that'd be
And
fine.
we know
If you wanna-
exactly where we stand.
You want to make a motion in regard to that?
I'll make that a motion, look for a second, and I'm asking for a recorded vote, please.
Seconded by Councillor Caxero. Any questions to the motion? And do you know what the motion is? Could you repeat the motion, Councillor Vokes? What you want?
The motion is to start the process moving forward with Stantec.
Councillor Caxero.
Through you to Donna. Donna, in the case where we didn't get approved for the funding, and we were going to fund the whole thing, you mentioned about some long-term debt. Is it possible for us to borrow the money from ourselves, from the landfill reserve, as opposed to borrowing from an outside third party, so that the interest that we're paying on it would come back to the municipality?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can. There are sufficient cash funds in place in the landfill reserve. I just want to be cautious about draining all those cash funds. We could do a combination of an application to Infrastructure Ontario and our own funds, but it's still long-term debt regardless of which one we go.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Call the question, then all in favor? Oh, it's a recorded vote. And it starts with Councillor Vokes? Yes, correct. Councillor Vokes? Councillor Bjorkman? Councillor Caxero?
Support.
Councillor Snively?
Support.
And I support as well. Councillor Bondi?
Support.
With a unanimous vote, it passes.
Thank you. So with that, we'll move on to 7E, which has been moved forward. And that is Infrastructure and Development Report number 2015-13. And this is in regard to backwater valve sub-pump installation subsidy program and mandatory backwater valve installation for new home construction. And I believe I'm passing that over to Mr. Nepsey.
Through your worship, what you have in front of you is what was discussed at the last meeting as far as the subsidy program. The Flooding Advisory Committee has worked the past several months reviewing various subsidy programs throughout the province, and we've kind of cut and paste this one from those. The gist of it is outlined in the recommendation, and it's noted, I guess, that it includes installation of a backwater valve, 50% of the cost up to a maximum of $750. Installation of a sump pump and pit in order to separate, a lot of the older homes. When we had combined sewers, their footing foundation drains went to the sanitary sewer, so that sump pump pit will get that out of there. Similarly, 50% of the cost to a maximum of $750. We've put in here performing investigative pipe camera work as well. There's been instances where we've been in homes, one of my own in particular, I guess, where I've been in there, but have found that through cammering, I've found my problems of my own as far as cracked pipes that were allowing the surge of water to get into my footing and foundation drains, causing my sump pump to be overloaded. As well, disconnection of downspouts. The committee agreed to pay 100% of the costs up to a maximum of $75. So as Stantec had alluded to earlier, this program is helping residents help themselves, and the town is helping out as far as funding that. So there's those 5 items that are eligible. The program is included in the minutes. It outlines the costs, the specifics as far as getting to quotes, as far as a homeowner doing their own work, and the process of getting the building official involved, permitting, inspection, et cetera, et cetera. So it's fairly in-depth. I think it's a good thing for the town. I think the committee was definitely all on board as far as moving forward. So that's presented to you tonight. What we've also done is set aside $50,000 a year for this. It would be a first-come, first-served basis. We can reassess as we move forward. If we see a large uptake and we need more money, we're going to be entering into budget discussions for 2016. So if that's something that we see a huge uptake on, we can adjust accordingly. So if I have any questions, I guess.